Hello, my name is Mark Ferry, and I'm here to speak with you about the importance of empathy in the therapeutic process. As social workers, we enter into people's lives at the worst of times. Doing so from a place of empathy means recognizing that despite our best intentions, our services are rarely desired. Yes, people may need our assistance, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they want it or that they're prepared for the invasiveness of the assessment process. My own background is working with trauma victims. From 1994 to 2015, I was the director of some of the largest long-term head injury programs in New York. In 2001, I developed a training which emphasized the need for direct care workers to develop empathy in dealing with trauma of those they served. The necessity of this training was to neutralize barriers between caregivers and those we serve in the community. These trainings open dialogues with direct care workers who often live at the poverty level and are expected to address work with empathy while receiving very little themselves. In many ways, these trainings help the development of the training and open care workers the idea that empathetic growth could mean career growth for them. Adams et al. Writes on the dangers of this empathetic work in an article published in the American Journal of Orthopsychiatry. It is important not just to engage in self-care to keep one's empathy intact, but to do so consistently to maintain and prevent burnout and compassion fatigue. Nobody comes into our services by choice. Nobody wants to have someone come to their home, ask about their worst moments, their biggest mistakes, chronicle them in writing, and offer opinions and advice. What people want are things like independence, self-actualization, and self-respect. It's difficult to maintain these things while being asked to disclose personal trauma or actions that may equate to helplessness and weakness. As caregivers, we sometimes make the mistake of thinking that we are there to help. We aren't. Not from the point of view of the person we are serving. We're just doing a job. We're entering into a power relationship, one in which our patient is in a vulnerable place and we are in power. All this means we are caregivers to those who don't necessarily want the care we're providing. They may need it, but they don't want it. If you ever find yourself walking into a new case and find me sitting there, run. I'll be the worst patient you've ever had. Because you have power and I don't. Because I may need you there, but I don't want you there. Writing down the things I do wrong, reporting them, looking down at me, seeing me in ways I never expected a stranger to see me. We make the mistake of thinking we're there to help. Nobody wants our help. As social workers, we try to reassure patients by telling them about our backgrounds, and we use a lot of words and acronyms they don't understand because they did not have an education in healthcare. As a patient, I view you as you're somebody who can do things I can't. You can have relationships, you can engage in high-risk behavior, and I can't. You can eat badly, have promiscuous sex, drinks, and do drugs, and as long as you don't get caught, you're fine. But if I do any of those things, you're going to write them up, and you're going to report it, and I could lose my housing, use my services, lose my respect. You're going to leave at the end of your shift, you're going to do whatever you want. And if I don't do what I'm supposed to do, I'm going to get in trouble. Understanding this point of view is important to a social worker. In an interview I conducted in 2003 went down like this. I walked in the door and the social worker said, "Hello, Mark. I'm the social worker for John. John used to work as a chef at a New York restaurant. He was a starter on the NCAA championship basketball team. As his records show, one night John was coming home from work when he was mugged, shot, and left for dead. He was in a coma for months, and then when he was released from the hospital, he beat his wife. She called the police. He ended up in a homeless shelter. Unfortunately, while at the shelter, he was beaten and raped by several men who then drugged him and used him to deliver drugs. That's when I found him. I took him out of the shelter. He ended up back there again, but I found him again. I took him out again, but he ended up back there again." And this is a true story. In a matter of 2 minutes, this social worker had recounted all of the worst moments of John's life while John sat there speechless, staring at the floor. In this interview, everything was good because of the social worker. Everything was bad because of John, a man who had been a chef and a captain of an NCAA championship team. Empathy means we're there to help John by being his voice until he can regain it for himself. Social workers should plan to engage in empathetic care coupled with self-care. A good plan to lead to a healthy and safe career in social work where empathy is a strength and not a weakness.